Welcome to the Tachyon Pulse, your place for sci-fi news, rumour and debate. And today we're going to be talking about a new guy in charge of television over at Amazon MGM. What does this mean for the future of the studio? What does this mean for projects like Legally Blonde? 'Cause let's be honest, that's what we care about. And more importantly, because I know you're going to ask, and already have, what does it mean for Stargate? Let's get into it.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.
Okay, so Vernon Sanders is a man that sounds like he should have a KFC franchise. But no, he was the head of television. He was actually hired under Jen Psaki's reign. And he has now left. And a new guy is in charge. I need to look down to get his name. Peter Friedlander. Now, Peter Friedlander is actually an old Netflix executive, and he actually left Netflix about a month ago. He has now taken on his new role over at Amazon MGM, and he's going to actually be in charge from October 6th. Friedlander was actually the longest running executive over at Netflix. He was in the role for like 18 years. And he is very experienced. He really knows what he's doing when it comes to big television projects. He's obviously going to be taking on the reins for things like Lord of the Rings that really does need a bit of a slap on the bottom to get going in the right direction. There is also projects like the Legally Blonde prequel and things like that, which I joke about not caring about, but actually, no, I don't care about. There's also a RoboCop franchise on the go, and things like God of War, Warhammer, that are kind of stuck in limbo at the moment. So he's got a lot to do. Now, is this change in leadership to do with the departure of Jen Psaki? Simply, kinda. So, what I'm being told by people over at MGM is that the word around the water cooler is, when Jen Psaki left, Mike Hopkins came in and he basically really wanted to shake things up. One of the main reasons that Jen Psaki left was that Mike Hopkins felt she was not taking advantage of the MGM intellectual properties that they spend over $8 billion purchasing. Remembering that MGM didn't have any studio space, only actually had one building that it leases, so there was no sort of like bricks and mortar value to MGM. It was all about the IP, things like Stargate. They weren't taking advantage of that. There's been a couple of projects got going. Spaceballs 2 is really the only big one off the list that they said initially they wanted to take advantage of. That was basically RoboCop, Legally Blonde, I think was one, to be fair. Stargate was obviously on the list. A 2001 Space Odyssey television series and a couple of other things, which I now forget. But only one of them has actually had anything done with. So, Mike Hopkins was really keen to do that. He also, though, unfortunately, Vernon Sanders, was not doing enough to keep the projects that were going in line. Apparently, he just was not a particularly hands-on manager, and things were getting a bit stuck. And he wasn't coming up with solutions that Mike Hopkins was happy with to get those projects going. So, he was politely asked to move on. They all did the pleasantries, and our new Peter Friedlander came in. What does that mean for Stargate? Is there a potential change in direction here? Because what we're being told is a movie is still planned, and it's supposedly penciled in to sort of go into pre-production sometimes around Christmas this year. Well, again, from what I'm being told is that Mike Hopkins is really keen to take advantage of all the IP, and that actually we know that Stargate has been one of those projects that he has literally talked about in meetings, etc., from my sources. We also know that another very important figure over at MGM is Michael Wright. He's actually the head of MGM Plus. Now, this is going to be twofold. One, Michael Wright has been desperate to get Stargate, a television series, and to put it on MGM Plus. About 2 years ago, they were really actually putting quite a lot of money into MGM Plus, and they were basically trying to make it a rival. It was one of the more profitable bolt-ons on the Amazon Prime, family of little bolt-ons, and they really wanted to make it sort of a channel in its own right, put in a lot of the MGM properties on there. Now, since then, and I actually told you guys exclusively and first at the time, that MGM's budget was frozen. I think this was the start of 2024, kind of at the start of that contraction. Not long after that, Amazon did reorganize a lot of its streaming platforms and where it was putting things. And MGM Plus has not really moved forward since then. Amazon then got rid of Freevee. They put adverts on Prime, and they really changed the direction of some of their business ideas. Michael Wright, though, I'm told, would still love to get Stargate on a television series on MGM Plus. I'm certain that they would then follow on Prime shortly after. From what we've been told repeatedly by insiders and people that we get to speak to here, there's always been a bit of a war between MGM, or the old executives of MGM, basically Michael Wright and his team, and Amazon. Amazon have always thought that Stargate should be a movie that would kick off a franchise. Basically, they want to do 10 or 12 theatrical movies a year, and they just thought that was an obvious choice. Apparently, that was Jen Salke's sort of idea, who is now gone. And really, the television series, even though the idea has been kicked about several times, was only really going to be a thing if the movie did well. Now, we know that they flip-flopped between movie series a couple of times when they were serious about this project. It's now sort of gone on the back boil and really hasn't been talked about seriously for about 18 months. Even though it's gone through a couple of different production companies, it's never got beyond kind of, do you want it? Oh, we'll have a look at it. Got any ideas? Not really. It's never really got beyond that. Now, we have heard that this movie idea is really on the cards, again, pre-production by Christmas, and that Mark Fergus, Hawk Ostby are probably the guys working on that at the moment, but we don't know for sure, but we've heard several rumours. The thing is, though, the change in direction here would be interesting because, one, I know for a fact Mark Fergus thought this should be a series. That's what he was initially developing. That was the idea he pitched initially when he actually kind of got 3 years ago now, was pitching these ideas back when Amazon were openly, this was not a secret, taking pitch ideas for a Stargate movie. It was reported in Deadline, etc., even though we talked about it 6 months before then. So we know that was sort of the direction and what Mark Fergus wanted to do. I was told Mark Fergus left this project about 6 months after that because they kept flip-flopping and they were pushing for a movie that he didn't really want to do. It seems, though, that the movie script they've got currently is by Mark Fergus, we believe. Could this be a flip-flop again, back to a TV series again? Mike Hopkins desperately wants MGM to use. Michael Wright definitely wants MGM Plus for that to really push that and put that into the spotlight. The other point, though, here is that Mike Hopkins now really wants to start pushing MGM Plus again. I've heard rumours that the idea kind of was that Amazon Prime would become where new TV shows go and Prime movies, and the MGM Plus would become basically Amazon movies, Amazon MGM movies, if you like, and would become a movie streaming platform. As far as I know, those plans are still there, and there's still an idea to do that, but Mike Hopkins now really wants to push on that. The focus has been in other areas for Amazon MGM over the last 12 months or so, but they want to now push back on and try to make something of MGM Plus, whether that changes to Amazon MGM movies or something else. There's an idea to push it on again and increase its budget in the new year. Now, we can only assume what that means at the moment, but for me, it would make sense for them to try to now push for a TV series. It's what Mark Fergus wants, it's definitely what Michael Wright wants, and from what we're seeing, it may be what Mike Hopkins wants. At the end of the day, he removed Jen Salke, in part because of things like Lord of the Rings and a couple of other problems, and Bond. Bond was a big problem, God, she mucked that up. But also because of MGM not being utilised. This guy, Peter Friedlander, has been brought in specifically to do that and to make sure they're taking advantage of the intellectual properties they own. The biggest one is Bond, obviously. But second, it's Stargate. So, let's see if we get some movement. I have my feelers out. I will be the first to tell you if something breaks. Let's see. But in the meantime, constant change at Amazon MGM. Let's hope this is the right guy to start moving them in the direction they want to go. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell notification. It really helps us out and you'll never miss any of our new videos. Also, you can become a member of the channel and get to see a lot of these videos first. Go check that out. As always, please stay safe and I'll see you next time.
Our tachyon pulse has been unable to completely penetrate the anomaly.